What's up, everybody? This is Attorney Dan Nguyen here, and I want to talk a little bit more about franchising and some of the lease provisions that franchisors should have, and that franchisees should know that the franchisor are going to want to have from the landlord. So, if you operate a retail type business, obviously you're going to have to go get a retail space, and the lease does have to be approved by the franchisee in most cases. And so what happens is the franchisor is going to want certain provisions in your lease with the between the franchisee and the landlord, and I'm going to talk about some of those. One is that the lease can't be assigned, amended, or sublet without your consent. You don't want, you spend a lot of time reviewing it. You don't want that those terms to change without your consent, right? The other thing is that the franchisee, the franchisor has the right to succeed, not the obligation, but has the right to succeed the tenant's rights under the lease if the tenant fails to exercise or renew the lease. So sometimes this happens when maybe the lease is up and they don't want to renew for some reason. The landlord, the franchisor, can step in and say, hey, we're going to take over the spot and we're going to renew it. Okay, so that's one example. If the tenant franchisee is a threat of default or a risk of default, or actually defaults, the landlord will not only give the franchisee notice under the lease terms, but also the landlord. So this also the franchisor. Franchisors, you also want to keep tabs on how well your franchisees are doing, including if they're not doing well. And one of the signs is if they can't pay the rent, they'll be in default, and you want the landlord to tell you those particular circumstances. Okay. The next thing is that if the lease is terminated for any particular reason, you as a franchisor can come in and remove all your signs and materials. Obviously, it's not really good for brand if there's a closed store and the signs are still there. So franchisors, you want your right to come in and take away all those materials and signs, things like that. The next thing is that you have the unrestricted right to assign or sublet the franchise to any other franchisee. So that way, if you approve a particular franchisee and there's a location that they're transferring or something, or getting out of the business, you can put them into that particular location. Okay, and as a franchisor, you should be able to, upon request of the landlord, disclose reports and sales data by the franchisee. So sometimes landlords will take a percentage of sales, and franchisors, obviously you want to confirm all these information. The franchisor wants to get that information from the landlord and make sure that the franchisee is reporting accurately. All right, and then obviously that the lease premises only operates that particular business that you're franchising, and that the tenant or the franchisee can't operate any other business in that particular location without the franchisor consent. Right. So these are some, not all, but some of the more popular lease provisions that a franchisor would want in a lease that a franchisee gets for the retail space. So you should be aware of these particular provisions. Most systems, the franchisor has to approve the lease, and so be aware that and look in your franchise agreement that these particular terms will be in your lease provision. Okay, so hey, this is Attorney Dan Nguyen here, and I'll talk to you soon.